Back in 2008, Karachi was expanding rapidly into a dense, sweltering grid of concrete. The city was severely lacking in tree cover, and residents were constantly battling extreme heat radiating off the pavement. On top of the rising temperatures, a massive dust and smog crisis hung over the streets. The local government recognized they needed a rapid, large-scale greening solution to filter the air and cool the environment down. They found their answer in a non-native coastal species called Conocarpus erectus, often referred to as the buttonwood tree for its small, clustered seed pods. The local authorities selected this specific plant for three highly practical reasons. It requires relatively little water, it easily tolerates harsh saline soil, and can survive high levels of urban pollution without withering. The urgency to fix Karachi's air quality and temperatures meant city planners bypassed slower, native species. They placed all their bets on a single foreign plant to perform an environmental miracle. The defining biological trait of the Conocarpus is its extreme growth rate. Planted as a small sapling, it can shoot up over 7 meters tall in just a few years, creating thick, dense hedges almost overnight. Taking advantage of this speed, the city launched a massive plantation drive. Thousands of these trees were lined up along major highways, public parks, and the boundaries of elite residential neighborhoods like DHA and Clifton. Within a few years, the visual transformation was striking. Barren, dusty roadsides were suddenly flanked by vibrant, evergreen walls. The city appeared to have successfully landscaped its way out of a crisis. But blanketing a massive urban center with exactly one type of tree hid a severe structural vulnerability. This is urban monoculture, the dominance of a single tree species across a city. The primary ecological risk is zero biodiversity. If a disease targets this species with no natural buffers, the infection leaps from tree to tree, wiping out the canopy in one stroke. But the most immediate threat from the Conocarpus didn't come from a pest. It came directly from the tree's own reproductive biology, which began impacting the human population living alongside it. Look closely at these spiked button-like flowers. During reproductive cycles, they release immense volumes of fine pollen straight into the already dense urban air. Soon after the trees matured, health experts started noticing a city-wide spike in respiratory problems and severe allergies, directly linking the outbreaks to the dense clouds of Conocarpus pollen. By attempting to filter the dust with a fast-growing monoculture, the city had inadvertently engineered a completely new airborne public health issue. This above-ground crisis was matched by silent destruction directly beneath the pavement. In Karachi's hot, arid environment, the Conoconopus tree's aggressively expansive roots naturally seek out moisture. They navigate the soil, locate underground water pipelines, and tightly wrap around them, applying immense physical pressure. Eventually, those pipes fracture and burst. In a city struggling with severe water scarcity, trees crushing the municipal plumbing creates catastrophic infrastructure damage. This created a bitter social divide. Environmentalists and city planners demanded the trees be cut down immediately to save the pipes. But working-class citizens, roadside vendors, and tea stall owners strongly opposed the removal, desperate to keep the only shade they had. The biology of the tree pitted the long-term ecological sustainability of the city against the daily survival of its residents. The mounting pressure finally forced the Sindh government to act. In 2020, they officially banned any new Conocarpus plantations and ordered the gradual removal of the existing trees. However, the execution was chaotic. Reports emerged that the private contractors hired to clear the streets were quietly selling the harvested timber for tens of millions of rupees. The actual removal process was far from systematic. In many neighborhoods, the trees weren't fully uprooted. Crews simply hacked them down and left thick, hazardous stumps protruding from the concrete. The sudden disappearance of the dense hedges also triggered secondary fears. Without the green walls, residents worried that the newly exposed, empty roadside spaces would quickly be occupied by informal shanties or used for illegal activities. Reversing a massive ecological error without a transparent, fully funded plan meant the city simply replaced one type of urban blight with another. To calm the public, officials outlined a massive replantation program. They promise to replace the Conocarpus with a wide variety of native, flowering species like neem, kachnar, and amaltas. These native alternatives offer specific ecological benefits. Trees like the gulmohar provide expansive, wide canopy shade. They don't produce allergenic pollen spikes, and they naturally balance the local microclimate while restoring biodiversity. But years later, that promised replantation has largely stalled. While a few saplings have appeared, the widespread recovery never materialized, leaving many of Karachi's streets barren, dusty, and hotter than before. True urban greening relies on the complex science of native biodiversity and careful infrastructure planning. It requires patience, investment, and maintenance, things you can never achieve with a quick, single-species illusion.